Welcome to Dr. M Wadcast, a Wadcast with a mission, connecting continuous improvement professionals across the world.
Responsibility from you, and we're not going to punish the people who are on time because of the people who are delayed for whatever reason, and it doesn't mean it's bad that they're late. They might have had a family problem, or I can remember I was late for meetings because my son pooped his pants, and I had to change a diaper. And you just can't tell your son, sorry, I got to go to a meeting. So there's all kinds of reasons why people may or may not be late, but you certainly don't want to punish the people who work hard to be prompt. You want to reward the right behavior. Okay, for Dr. M, your show.
Yeah, let's start.
Yes, Lonnie, we'll start, right?
Are you ready, Dr. M?
Sure. We are ready. So,
okay.
Welcome, and well, we have introduced ourselves. Most of you all were there in the meet and greet session. So, Lonnie, and we can do a quick, I know most of them. So you can just say, where are you from and which sector are you representing? And all of you have got the books and you read the chapter 1. That's what we are going to talk about. And what Lani said is that he will give us the leads and then it is going to be interactive. So feel free to ask questions. It may cover chapter 1 or whatever your company is facing. I will take it on from there. It's just going to be an hour. So make the best use of it. Lani, over to you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And welcome to Dr. M's first study circle. I'm proud to be here, but I want to make a point, and that is, of all the people here, you are the most important. This is built for you. It's designed for you, and the success or lack of success that you get from this will be directly proportional to what you put in. Dr. M organized it, and I'm merely a prompt to help keep things going in something that represents maybe a right direction. But in each session, what I would like to do is say a few words, usually 5 to 7 minutes at the most, and then the rest of the session is yours. And I want you to think of it in terms of 2 aspects. At each session, we'll present some new information. And what I want you to do is to leave the session with a better understanding than you came in. If you don't have an understanding, or things are foggy, or you think they're wrong, please don't hesitate to challenge them. I will tell you a secret. Right now, I know that I will learn twice as much from this session as any of you. And I will learn because of your questions. You will do what I hope is called attacking the fringes. Everybody has a body of knowledge and they call it, you could wrap your arms around it. But the way you improve it is you attack the edges and you expand that body of knowledge and understanding. Okay. So that's question number 1. At the end of the session, do you feel better about your understanding of the subject matter than you started the session with? The second thing is, the understanding is really of no use unless you have the ability to apply it in your environment. And you can read all of these wonderful stories that people tell you about what they did in this Kaizen event, or what they did here, or what they did there. But the point is, they did it there. They did not do it in your environment. And when you're trying to take some leaps, like the world of Raj Kumar versus the world of Shreya, and you try to take these principles and apply it from manufacturing into healthcare, there's ways to do that. And it's actually not as difficult as it sounds. But at first, it's often very difficult. But the key is not the knowledge. The knowledge is there. It's been around since the Egyptians or the Persians or somebody developed all this stuff way back when, and we just keep refining it. The key is, can I apply it in my workplace and create a better environment for the people that I'm trying to serve? Okay. So those are the two things I really want you to focus on. And they're things that, since I'm slightly older than dirt, I may be able to help you with. I mean, there's paths that you're going down that I've traveled. Okay. And don't be too impressed by that either, because you gain knowledge through two methods. Okay. One is you come up with some brilliant idea, you create a hypothesis, and you go out and you apply it, and well, it works. You know, hallelujah, brother. Okay. And now you've learned something. But the truth of the matter is, most of the times you apply it and it doesn't quite work. And you if you're clever, you reflect on it and you sort through your mistakes. And that's how you really gain a lot of knowledge, is through your mistakes. So what are knowledgeable people? They're people who've screwed up a lot. Well, maybe if they're knowledgeable, they've screwed up a lot and they've reflected and learned on it. Okay. But don't think that experience alone gives you power to be knowledgeable. It's successful experience. Successful experience. And usually successful experience follows a modest failure. Okay. So in your travels, you're going to be making all kinds of mistakes. There's only one way to not make mistakes, and that's to do nothing. And that, unfortunately, is often more rewarded than making mistakes and learning from it, which goes to retard learning, because as soon as you get punished for something, you tend to not do it. Okay. So be careful. Question everything. Okay. Just because Dr. Deming said something, or just because Dr. M said something, or just because Lonnie Wilson said something, that does not make it so. It might be absolutely correct for your world. It might be partially correct for your world, or it might be incorrect for your world. But challenge it, okay? Because at the end of the day, what you want to do is you want to apply it in your world. Okay. And it comes to a point that I want to make, and I'll bring out through this whole series of 12 sessions that we'll go through. And that is that if you want to make change, you have to have some knowledge about a subject. Okay. You have to have the will to make the change. Okay. And then you have to have some power to make it occur. Okay. Most consultants, most internal problem solvers are not line managers. The line managers hold the absolute position power to make things happen right now if they want to. You can have referent power, and you can have power of experience, and you can have power of position. But the power of position is very often the one that you really need to capture to make things happen. Okay. But the real limitation that you're going to find when you try to implement change is not knowledge. It's will. Is the will of the management focused on the change? Until you get the will aligned with the needed changes, you will be nothing but frustrated. You'll have a bunch of good ideas that you'll throw up against the wall and they will not stick. Okay. So you'll be continually and consistently checking the will of the management. And it doesn't do any good to tell them that they're stupid, and it doesn't do any good to tell them that they're wrong, and it doesn't do any good to tell them those type of things. Well, unless you have the right relationship with them. Okay. But it's the will that you're fighting, not the knowledge. Okay. And the biggest piece of change that you're going to find that is needed is the change in the hearts and the minds of the people. It's not in the body. It's not in the activity. It's not in the standard work. It's in the heart and the mind. It's in the will and the desire. Do they care enough to change? Okay. And that is why Toyota and various Japanese companies are so good at implementing these techniques. If they have learned how to capture the heart and the mind of their workers, it's the Japanese secret sauce, if you want to say it. Okay. And that's why the knowledge of all these skills and tools is almost trivial. Learning SMED and standard work and TPM and all of those things, they're important. And at the end of the day, you can't succeed without them. But they are not the limiting factor. The limiting factor is capturing the hearts and minds of the people. And therein lies engagement. Therein lies the science of workforce engagement. And there's a serious science behind it. And we're going to go through it one step at a time. Okay. But that's the thing that you need to really understand. And when you get on these forums, if you're on one of the blogs that Dr. M and I are on LinkedIn, pardon me, there's all kinds of talk about all the technical matter and all of this and all of that. But really, it comes down to the hearts and the minds of the workers. And people talk about respect for people, but they don't understand it. And the danger part is they're all double dumb. They don't know what it is, but they don't know that they don't know. Okay. And the point I want to continually hammer on, and I will not say it clearly enough, nor often enough, nor loud enough, is that it's a science. It's not some pop psychology. It's not some back of the envelope thoughts of some great speaker. It's not what Daniel Pink talks about. It's not. He's got part of it, but he doesn't have all of it. Okay. And so you hear all of these motivational speakers talk about it. You hear Simon Sinek talk about it. He misses the boat. You hear Daniel Pink talk about it. They miss the boat. Now, they're not completely wrong, but they're not right. They're partially right. Okay. And so you've got to be careful for what you hear from a lot of these people, because it will sound good. But at the end of the day, there's a science that explains it. Okay. And I have a couple last thoughts here, and then we'll get into your questions. I want to give you a clue as to who should you listen to. Okay. You know, very often somebody who has just a little bit more knowledge than you do can sound really smart. They can sound really smart. Okay. But that doesn't mean they are. There's two clues I would give you to people who are really smart. Is number one, they can explain things in simple terms. If they need to use polysyllabic, very sophisticated sounding terms, chances are they don't understand it very well. Can it be said in simple English? Because everything you're going to learn is simple. You know, it's like Solomon says in the Bible, there's nothing new under the sun. Okay, well, maybe you're not all versed in the Bible, but I'm sure in all of your religions, they say the same thing. You know, there's nothing new. It's digested. The environment has changed, so how to apply this in a little bit different way. But the basics are mostly the same. And certainly the respect for people principle is the same as it was, you know, written by whatever Persian philosopher is floating around, or all the great writers of Confucianism and Taoism and Buddhism. I mean, the knowledge base and the principles are very, very similar. And so it's simple. It really is simple. And I think that's one of the things that religions do, is they take these complicated concepts and reduce them to something simple that people can understand. So point number one, can people explain to you things in simple terms? Okay. Can they use common English to explain it? Okay. When you hear people using flowery terms, you know, and jargon is the key, you know. The jargon is supposed to explain things so clearly. But when they have to use jargon, okay, jargon's not all bad. But if that's the source of their strength, watch out. Okay. The second thing is, can they say it briefly? Can they tell you that concept briefly? And that's particularly why in this book, in the introduction, I have a summary in 2 sentences of the entire book. The entire book. And one of the things I would like you to do is, in the last session, I would like you to tell me if this is a good summary of the book. Okay. And it is, I put in a 2-sentence and a 2-paragraph summary.
Hmm.
It says, this book is about management's need to learn and apply the science of workforce engagement to have a healthy, happy, and productive workforce. That's what's in it for management, a healthy, happy, and productive workforce. This is in the bottom of page 17, if you have the paperback. To accomplish this, management must create a work environment where each individual can perform to their maximum ability and thus become the best possible versions of themselves. That's what's in it for you. Okay. Now that's my intended summary of the book. Okay. Now I go on to discuss over 220 pages what all that means. Okay. But it just keeps coming back to that same summary. Creating a healthy and happy workplace, creating an environment where people can thrive and become the best versions of themselves. Okay. Now that is what Toyota understands. They understand that. But here's the dangerous part is I'm not sure Toyota fully appreciates that. They do it naturally. It's almost what you call implicit knowledge to them. So they don't advertise it. But I can remember taking a tour in a Toyota plant. And we started talking about the respect for people concept. And in the middle of the tour, one guy said, you know, I don't understand why Toyota gives all these tours. You're giving all your secrets away. And the guy told him, he said, well, what you see, you can duplicate. He said, but you really can't. Because the most important part of what went on, you can't see. And let me give you a simple example. On that tour, I hopped off the bus. The bus stopped and they were making some speeches and I snuck off. You aren't supposed to do that. But I snuck off because I saw the training office right nearby. And I went into the training office and I got a little 3-fold document. And it's their training document, their summary for team leaders and supervisors. And so I got an unsuspecting young trainer and I said, hey, here's your training outline of how to become a team leader. I said, how many hours go into preparing somebody for a team leader? He said, we do 168 hours of training. And I said, what? He said, there's 168 hours of training to become a team leader. And I said, well, how much of that is classroom training? He said, well, maybe 30 or 40 hours is in a classroom. He said, the rest of it is on the line with a team leader trainer doing real experience where you're in the line, you're acting as a team leader, but you have a trainer at your side and you go through specific exercises. Okay. And he says, and then once you have completed the team leader training, you go into the team leader potential pool. And when a team leader opening appears, you can become a team leader. I said, well, then how do you pick your supervisors? He said, well, all supervisors are picked from team leaders. And how much training do you need to become a supervisor? He said, an additional 128 hours. 128 hours. And he said the majority of that is in people handling. He said they have to learn how to handle the schedule. They have to learn their role in problem solving, and they have to learn their role in this and that. He said, but the majority of it, he said, over 80 hours is in handling people, learning how to question, learning how to observe, learning how to, literally a class on going to the Gemba, Genchi Gembutsu. Okay. How many hours in your clients? Most of your clients don't have team leaders, but they have a job like that, kind of an assistant supervisor or something. How much training do they get? This is Toyota's secret sauce. They know that. They make the investment in the people, and they work to create it, an environment where those people can be successful and they can become the best versions of themselves. Okay, so in just a second, I had two things I would like to say. Is one, at the end of the session, I would like to leave time for two things. So Dr. N, if you could remind us when we have 10 minutes left, I would like to go into a reflection. Reflect on what we learned, how we could do this session better. And number two, I have set up, if we have time, what I call a tidbit in learning, a tidbit in insight. Okay, and just something that I have learned over the years, that kind of is a function of my gray beard and my age, that I think might be helpful to you in terms of helping put your job as a problem solver, your job as teaching the science of workforce engagement, your job is applying the science of workforce engagement in all of those jobs, how it will make it easier. Okay, so with that said, I turn the floor over to you, and it's open to any of your questions about anything I've said or about your knowledge in the first chapter, which is what's in it for me. And it's your show. How can I help?
Would you like me to do a round robin by starting with Karthik?
Yes. Good evening, doctor. And just a short introduction. I'm basically a lean professional since last 11 years. And now presently I'm with one of the Japanese tire company in Visakhapatnam. I'm basically from Tamil Nadu, and I hold certifications in Lean, Six Sigma, and much more from Kaizen Institutes as well. So this is in short about me. Particularly, we face a lot of challenges in the workforce driving methodology, especially what I faced in this last 1 year. This is a greenfield project which commenced from February 2022. To be frank, so starting from the date one, we see a lot of challenges like people not getting much involved towards all this cultural changes, etc. And we call it as a continuous improvement. So that is one part, and the other part is, of course, the challenges rises towards the middle management, which is more focused towards production in making the day-to-day achievement. We are not much towards into production as of now, because still we are in the project commissioning stage. One of the main criteria. So our focus is to only a certain metric ton. That is one part. What we do is like we give some of the freebies, so to add an example, 5 cases per person means we give some rewards and recognitions. But over a period of time of last 6 months, we feel to get this cases and some kind of improvement related like 1 point lessons, etc. only for the sake of rewards and recognitions. But whereas the voluntary involvement, we are not able to see it as a real picture. This is one of the challenges. So this is open to public, how to make forward this go further.
How many of you all face the similar problems? Just put up your hand.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't understand the problem. What is your question, Karthik?
Yes. Loni, actually, we started a company in Visakhapatnam, which is a tire manufacturer, Japanese MNC, named Yokohama Off-Highway Tires. So starting from the day one, we see a lot of challenges towards this cultural changes. Of course, the Japanese company being more reputed in all the systems, which are already carried forward from the mother companies, like Yokohama Rubber, that is where our origin came from. So what we see is like issuing all these rewards and recognitions, people put forward their involvement only for the sake of rewards and recognitions. But whereas we are not able to feel the voluntary involvement of the personals or staffs or whatever category it is. It really feels like we are just working towards some certifications or going forward in this journey. So that is one of my main point to add up, how to make this voluntary involvement come in the picture.
Lonnie, if I can paraphrase what Karthik said, and just correct me if I'm wrong, is the Kaizen participation that they're trying to do. They're giving them some gifts, etc., certificates, rewards, and all. And Karthik is saying that how do I get? They're working towards getting certificates and awards rather than coming out from within. Go ahead, Lani. If that am I put it correctly?
Okay, well,
Karthik?
my
Yes,
question for you,
you are
Karthik,
right.
is why does your management think that would work?
Pardon, can you rephrase it?
Yeah, you're saying that they're only responding when they give them recognition and rewards, you know, tangible things.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know, a gift certificate or whatever it happens to be. Okay. Well, why is it that your management thinks that's the appropriate way to reward them?
No, it's a kind of a spot recognition that management is feeling like if you give some rewards and recognitions, the other fellow members may come forward to add more involvement in this particular. But over a period of time, that has become an habit of giving the rewards and recognitions and making it as a culture.
Okay, I understand that. I understand that.
Yes.
But if it's not working, why does your management continue to
नाही
do
आमची
it?
एक मीटिंग चालू आहे ऑनलाईन ते मला जॉईन करायची होती.
Asher, could you turn your mic off, please?
Bhupesh, turn off your mic. He's traveling. Bhupesh is traveling. Just turn off your mic. Mute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, your management has incorrect beliefs about motivation. And the problem is not with your people.
Hmm.
The problem is with your management.
Okay.
I mean, you've heard the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing and expect different results. You know,
Yes.
the management team must learn that and this comes down to a belief in people. Okay.
Hmm. Yes.
You know, ask your manager, you know, if that's how he treats his wife, you know, when his wife gives him a trip to the airport and sends him off on his next flight, does she get a $20 tip?
No.
What would happen if your wife takes you to the airport and you say, "Thank you, dear," and you give her a $20 tip?
That will not be correct. No.
No, she would be insulted.
Yes.
What? Because she did it because she wanted to do it.
Of
Okay.
course.
So you tell your manager, say, well, next time you want somebody to take you to the airport, you know. On the other hand, if you take an Uber or Lyft or whatever they have in India, a cab to the airport, you are required to tip him. Why?
Hmm.
Because you have a different relationship. The relationship with your wife when she takes you to the airport is transformational. She's doing it because she wants something better for the both of you. She wants you to get off. She wants you to get happy. You know, she wants you to be on time. She wants to make sure that your lunch is packed and your baggage is okay. She cares about you. Okay. On the other hand, with the cab driver, as soon as he gets his money, you're gone. It's purely transactional.
Hmm.
You give me this and I will give you that. You give me a ride to the airport, I'll give you $20. Okay. Well, you have turned what could possibly be a transformational relationship between the supervisors, the managers, the leaders of the facility, and the workers into a transactional relationship. You don't want it to be a transactional relationship.
Yes. It should be
You
a
want it to be a
culture.
transformational relationship.
Yes.
So the problem is not with your people.
Hmm. It's with the
The
management.
problem is the way your management has conditioned your people.
Hmm.
Okay. And so first you have to change the mindset of the managers. Now that's not easy,
Yes.
but you could ask him the same question I do. When your wife takes you to the airport, do you give her a $20 tip? Okay.
True.
When the son takes it, when your 10-year-old son takes the garbage out to the trash bin, do you give him a tip every time? Or is
No.
that one of the things that he's supposed to learn from and learn responsibility and learn development?
True.
Okay. You give him a $2 tip to take out the garbage, and 2 years later, he's going to say, "Hey, Dad, it's $4 now,
Mm.
So it's the answers almost always come back to the management group. Okay.
Yes.
Anybody else like to dive into that concept?
Lonnie, I would like to add. Lonnie, the problem, this situation that Karthik has mentioned is not very rare. It's common across many organizations. The problem is that these kind of initiatives, it is us, the lean change agents, who introduce these initiatives. The management very often is not familiar with what lean is, what TPS mindset is, what Toyota thinking is. They rely on us to initiate. And it is us who introduce all these initiatives. And somewhere we are getting this thing wrong because not everyone is trained the lean way. So what advice do you give to the lean change agents? How to do the things the right way?
Mm.
Okay, let me throw this back to the group. Okay. Alam, without being too personal here, I want to point out there's a huge flaw in Alam's thinking. What do you think that flaw is? I applaud Alam for saying we're part of the problem, because we are. That's true. Sometimes we initiate the problem, sometimes we perpetuate it. But regardless, let me ask this question. What does this problem that Karthik brought up have to do with lean? What is lean unique about his problem?
Rajkumar,
Okay, let me. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, in these such cases, like people think that they come in the organization to perform, not to improve. In lean, we are expecting improvement in every performance. And as Mr. Karthik has explained, their team is just performing the task. They are not interested in the improvement of the task.
Okay, let me ask the question a slightly different way. When I answered Karthik, did you get an understanding kind of what the problem is that we were talking about? That the problem is not one of it's one of motivation. It's one of transformation versus transaction. It's one of how people interact. When I was, if you got an understanding, if I added some clarity to Karthik's problem, where did I talk about lean? Where was lean in my explanation?
It was clearly about the attitude, if I'm not wrong.
Can I
Yeah.
add something, Lane? Lonnie?
Please.
See, I think when you said about management, I think everybody was thinking about top management. So everyone who is managing at the shop floor, including Alam told the lean managers or middle management, everyone is actually managing or supervising, right from top management to the middle management. So whoever is supervising, whoever is responsible to manage. I mean, it's the responsibility for everybody to take, be the change agents of whoever is actually leading. So whatever change that we are proposing, or maybe if a solution, if everyone agrees, so who is going to implement it? Is it top down or is it right from down. Something, I mean, maybe some solutions are actually implemented right on the shop floor by the direct supervisor or direct manager. So any kind
Okay,
of
but
attitude, yeah.
I want to get to a little bit deeper point here. And I want everybody to add this to their reflection list, because at the end of this, I'm going to ask you to reflect on 2 topics. But if my explanation to Karthik was helpful to you to help understand the situation, notice that I didn't use, it wasn't a factory, it wasn't a process line, it wasn't a manager, it wasn't a subordinate. It was 2 people interacting in a relationship and acting in a fashion that assisted both. Karthik got his ride to the airport, and his wife felt good about being able to do that. More than likely, it wasn't a burden. She enjoyed it. Okay. But to the taxi driver who you paid $20, it was work. It was something he had to do. Okay. And so very often the solution to these people problems have nothing to do with understanding lean. They have nothing to do with factory management. They have nothing to do with the job of the CEO. They have everything to do with the relationships between people. They have everything to do with people getting engaged. And we haven't talked about it yet, but if you've read ahead at all, you'll learn that engagement is not just physical work, getting the work done. The taxi cab driver or the wife driving to the airport, that's the physical commitment. But there's an intellectual commitment, doing it the right way, problem solving. And there's an emotional commitment. Do they care? The taxi cab driver doesn't care about you. You're a fare. Once you pay him, you're done. Okay? But with your wife, it's an ongoing relationship. It's transformational. There's a future to it. Okay? So here is message number 1 I'd like to give you, is that much of the knowledge that you need to have to be successful in your job, you have. You don't need to read a book about lean. If you want to learn about supervising, look at how you interact with your kids. If you want to learn why an appraisal is a lousy technique for personal development, just ask yourself, do I ever give my wife an appraisal? How would that work? Huh? How do you think that would work, Raj? Wife, sit down here. We got to talk about your performance over the last year,
Here in India, won't get food.
Lani, Lani.
So let me finish my thought, Doc, and I'll be right
Sure.
with you. My point is, you already have a tremendous amount of knowledge. Okay. And it's not going out and getting new and different things. Now that's helpful, but use what you have. Think about the knowledge base that you already have. It's there. Pardon me, Doc. Go ahead.
Lani, if I go through all the people on the screen, including me, we're all taxi drivers. It's because we have to get food to the table. We are paid, and we have to put something to show that we earn the pay that the management gives. So how do you turn it around into a transformation? The relationship. All of us
Okay.
are taxi drivers here.
Okay. Let me throw that out to the group. How do you respond?
Bhupesh, you are in a taxi. Come on, Bhupesh. And I love your commitment that he's traveling from Pune to Bombay and he's still attending our session. Bhupesh Aher, unmute yourself and respond.
Hello, good evening to everybody.
Good evening, Bhupesh. Glad for you to join us.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little late. I was traveling. I'm still traveling. Okay. So I wanted to definitely attend this meeting. And very interesting thing. As you rightly said, it's a relationship. Okay. Irrespective of, the job or the performance, what we are expecting from the juniors, it is at the end of the day, it is a relationship. And the relationship, I would say, is a three-way. One is, how is the relationship with my seniors? Number one. Second, how is the relationship I have developed with my colleagues? And third, most important, how is the relationship I have developed with my juniors? Now, I mean, just reflecting my own way. The relationship has a different degree or different, the different kind of relationship when we interact with our seniors in a job. And when we talk to our colleagues, our peers, okay, that relationship is again a different. And when we talk to our juniors, so I think it's not only the taxi driver and the wife relationship here. I would say a three-dimensional one: seniors, at par, and maybe junior. And while I'm at the thinking level, that how is this three relationships are different? Okay, within the same company, same group of people working together, and we build a different relationship. This is what I'm trying to understand right now. Thank you very much. Learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Dr.
Lonnie,
Dr. M
this-
is correct. We have a transactional relationship with our job. In other words, we do this for them and they give us pay and benefits. Okay. But if that's all the job is, you're going to be very dissatisfied. Okay. And I like to give to people that I mentor this advice, that you will find your calling. You will find your calling in life when your great passion overlaps with the world's great needs. Okay. And when you find a job that pays you for that thing, then your transactional relationship will also be matched with your transformational relationship. And what too many people do is they spend too much time worrying about the world's great needs. In other words, what they can get paid for versus what their passion is. They worry about what the office is going to look like, what their title is going to look like, what their pay and benefits are going to be like. Okay. And they go after that job and they miss their passion. And the truth is, if you find your passion, you will also find the world's great needs because they're there. Okay. I've spent months counseling people, particularly lawyers. They're an incredibly unhappy lot. Okay. But they're well paid. They drive nice cars. They live in big houses. They have prestigious jobs. Every one of them has 3 secretaries and 2 paralegals. And by the way, these secretaries and paralegals, every one of them is a top 10 knockout. You know, they look like a bunch of models. And they love that. They love the perks because they're feeding the world's great needs. But they've missed their passion. It's not what they love to do. They don't like the adversarial nature of it. They don't like all the paperwork. They don't like all the traveling to and from court and waiting for their time. They don't like getting there and somebody else not showing up. I mean, being a lawyer in the United States is a very lucrative, but there's too many people who are in it for the wrong reason and they're very unhappy. Okay.
10 minutes.
Pardon me. It's
Mo.
time to move into reflection. Pardon me,
10
Doc?
minutes more. Yep.
Okay.
10 minutes more.
I want to move into reflection, but before that, I want to give you a little tidbit. So I'm going to cut the reflection down to 5 minutes and give you this tidbit. Okay. we're all technical sorts of people, so we get very enamored by formulas and stuff. Okay. And this tidbit is entitled, and you might want to write this down, Encountering the System, or Why Teaching is a Lousy Way to Learn. Encountering the System, or Why Teaching is a Lousy Way to Learn. Most of what you thought you learned, a lot of times you thought you were taught in college. Well, I'm here to burst that bubble. In college, you were taught practically nothing. Okay. You paid a lot of money, and I don't want to burst your bubble, but what college gave you was a credential so you could go out and really learn. That's what you got from college. Okay. And if you reflect on that, you'll find out that's maybe one of the world's great truths. Okay. But let me give you an example. Most of you are engineers, so I presume you'd understand the equation about gravity. You know, it says a free falling object will fall and it will accelerate at the formula is V equals 1/2 gt squared. G is the acceleration of gravity, time squared, and the velocity at any point in time will be that. Okay. And you learned that in college. Okay. But then somebody said, well, okay, here's a steel ball and here's a feather, and they drop a steel ball and they drop a feather, and they say they don't hit the ground at the same time. And the professor says, aha, there's a reason for that. So he gets out a 6-foot vacuum tube that's 6 feet in diameter, and he puts the ball and the feather in the 6-foot vacuum tube, and he evacuates all the air. Then he turns the vacuum tube over, and what happens? The feather and the ball both fall at the same rate. And you say, but wait a minute, it's 1/2 gt squared. Where's the vacuum in the equation? And the guy says, oh, it's an object, a free falling object. And you say, okay, what's a free falling object? And the professor says, well, that's an object where you have a controlled environment and there's no resistance. And if you're clever, you say, where is that? And he'll tell you, it's in this laboratory inside this vacuum tube. And at that moment, you wake up and you say, holy reality, Batman. All of my clients are not in this laboratory inside this vacuum tube. They're out in the real world. So what you learned is all of these formulas that you have apply in a vacuum tube in a laboratory. They apply in a world that has no environment. Unfortunately, that's not the problems you solve. So you have to go back into the real world and you have to encounter this environment. Okay. And the V equals 1/2 gt squared is a good place to start, but it doesn't work in the real world. It might be an approximation and it might work under some circumstances, but what are those circumstances? They don't teach you that. That's what you learn. So as a consultant, as a problem solver, as a manager, and it doesn't matter whether you're a parent or a teacher or a line super, you're working in healthcare or with complicated, because you have to apply this theory in the real world. You don't get to use the free falling characterization. You have to deal with the reality. Okay. And that's one of the things that makes it difficult. Now, later we'll give you a tidbit as to why it becomes increasingly more difficult. But keep that in mind. All the theory you got in school taught you a little bit, but it was a lousy, what you were taught was a lousy way to learn. It may provide a foothold so when you get in the real world, you can really learn. Okay. So we only have a couple minutes left. I apologize for infringing on the reflection, but I'd like to open it up to reflections. Okay. Now at 9 o'clock, as far as I'm concerned, everybody's free to go. I will stay around as long as people have questions, comments, additions, deletions, whatever you like. I will be here. As long as Dr. M can keep the channel open. Okay, the floor is yours.
Sorry. I'll be here too, and I request Alam and Munawir also to stay back. The others, feel free to talk to Lani. Questions? Shreya?
By the time in this discussion, what I understood is previous questions also came, like from Karthik sir, he told about that cultural change is very difficult. So I also believe that like before implementation, like if we are implementing anything new, and if we really want our people to do that, so training before implementation, proper training is required, and we need to make them understand that why we are doing it and why we really want this to be like what will be the results and how it's going to benefit both like for our own development and for the organizational development. So that two thing is very important. What is happening nowadays is like management is giving us, okay, you have to this do this job, but like people are not ready. They are not that much oriented. Either many of our workforce don't have the knowledge like why we are going to do this because they were very much comfortable doing this long years. Like if I'll talk about healthcare industry, so they were pretty okay. Okay, we are doing this thing since last 10 years. So why we want this change now? What is it meant for? And we were doing good all these years. So we have to first bring them at the same pace with us. Then we can slowly, gradually start making the changes. So that's what I understood by now. So I just wanted to do how we can do like it's my idea. Like first I have to train them and make them orient about the things, then we can go forward.
Lani, any
Okay,
response
thank you,
to
Shreya.
Shreya?
Anyone else?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I'll take it around. I'll take it around. Neelam Kumar, I have not heard you or seen you. Any questions for Lani? Your reflection?
Well, I would rather get your reflections of what you thought about the session, what you thought about the materials.
Yeah.
How can we do this better?
I think it's really great. It needs a bit more interactions, more chances for the people to uh, share their views and ideas. So maybe this 1 hour is very little to discuss more elaborate or briefly also. But then I feel that could more interactions that would help
Nitin?
across organizational
Okay,
participants.
Raj, as a response to that, let me add one thing here, is that I make a deal with everyone I call a student of mine. And being involved in this, you're a student of mine. If you read my book, you're a student of mine. If you're a client, you're a student of mine. If you attend one of my webinars, you're a student of mine. And the deal I make is that if you were ever a student of mine, which is your choice, you can always be a student of mine, which is also your choice. And that gives you the right to give me a call anytime, send me a text anytime, send me an email anytime. And so if you'd like to discuss some of these topics in more detail, give me a call. I'm here.
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thanks,
So
Lon.
next,
Nitin?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Lonnie. Good evening, Dr. M. I read the first two chapters of your book, and before that, the one thing that you have mentioned in the preface, I guess, that we need not to reinvent the lean manufacturing. That wheel is already been invented. We need to reacquaint ourselves with the original wheel. So, can you explain more about this?
yeah, I think that, like I said earlier, all of these strategies and tactics and stuff about lean manufacturing that people discuss, line balancing was developed by the Vikings when they made Viking ships, and it's been around for forever. That type of those industrial techniques, and we don't need to reinvent those. We need to learn how to apply them to our world. But Mostly we need to understand them more deeply. And I heard the other day that the Japanese are not so clever. They're just what a guy's called fast followers. In other words, they saw what worked and they followed it. And but they are very clever at combining those things in their world and make them work to a uniquely and a higher level. That's one of the things they're clever at. And number two, they, unlike most of the rest of the world, understand the power of people. And those are the two things we need to focus on. Every plant is maybe going to need a SMED expert, but you can find those. Every plant is going to need industrial engineers who can do line balancing and hijunka, but you can find those. Those are not difficult trades. Okay. It's applying them in the right place at the right time in the right way. Okay. And doing it so the other people are involved. Okay. The chapter title was "What's in it for you? What's in it for me?" And I would like to read you what I should be in it for you, whether you're the client or you're the teacher or whatever. Creating a fully engaged workforce will give you back a great deal of that control. What I see in most plants is a group of hardworking but frustrated employees. They're frustrated because they have more to give, but the system will not allow them to contribute all they have to offer. When you create a fully engaged workforce, each individual is encouraged to become the best version of themselves and contribute not just physically, but emotionally and intellectually with their head and heart. You and your employees will be happier, healthier, and more productive. So what's in it for me? There's plenty, but the issue is control. And is Karthik still on? Yes, Karthik. When you give them back that control, okay, now they want to do those Kaizen activities. Today, you're paying them for them, so they have to do them. That's the subtitle of this book, turning have to into want to. The taxi driver has to get there on time. Why? Because you're paying them. Your wife wants to get you there on time. It's the difference between transactional and transformational relationships. It's the difference between wanting to and having to, okay? And as long as you have to, you will always have top-down leadership. You will always have autocratic leadership. You always have command and control leadership. It will appear like a dictatorship. You'll have micromanagement. But if you can turn that have to into want to, and as a manager, get out of the way and let the people do all that they're capable of doing, you have a different beast. So what's in it for me? Well, you get the satisfaction of helping give that control back to those people.
Yeah, thank you, Lonnie. And there are two more questions regarding this only. One is
Sure.
for you, and question number 3 is for both you and Dr. M. The first is like you have mentioned at 2-3 places about respect for people. So can you give some practical example how we can create those opportunities for getting respect for people?
Can I give some practical examples?
Yeah. That how on the shop floor or in the organization we can create respect for people.
Okay, let me give you a very simple one. I was in an argument with the plant manager about something, and we decided we were going to do an experiment. And he was talking about the low productivity in this one cell. They had this one set of cells that were in an enclosed room, in a climate controlled room, doing very sensitive work. And they were always behind schedule. They never met standards. And I went down there and I did a study, and I said, the problem is the attitude of the people. I said, you can put up all the standards you want. They just don't care enough. And he said, well, okay, what should we do? Should we pay him more? And I said, no. I said, get him more involved. And he said, like what? I said, let's try an experiment. So I went down and I asked a couple of people, I said, this part you're making, can you tell me what that does? Guy says, no clue, no idea. So we got the supervisors together and we said, do you know what each of these parts are for? And they said, no. And so we got the supervisors together with the engineers and they explained to them what each of these parts were. Okay. One of them was you know how on your car, when you park it and you turn the steering wheel and you feel that lock, that's a safety device on your car. Okay. He was making the clamp that fit over the steering column that was part of that device. Okay. So we went down and we talked to this work cell and we explained to this work cell. The supervisor explained to the work cell. They didn't have team leaders. The supervisor explained to the work cell what this device was. And you could see the people's eyes light up. Okay. So a week later, I went back to the cell and I just grabbed one of the operators at random. And I said, how did you think the discussion went about what these pieces were worth? And this guy lit up like a Christmas tree. He said, I can't believe that. He said, I went home and I was talking with my wife. And she said, sweetheart, you know what you're doing? She said, yesterday, you made 300 assemblies a day. He said, today, you're making 300 cars safer. You should be immensely proud of that. The work productivity in that work cell improved like 20% just because of that. And what you're going to learn is we made the work for that worker meaningful. Before he understood that, he was just doing some stuff to a chunk of steel. Well, actually, it was zinc aluminum. Okay. When he was done, he was making something that helped people. He had a greater sense of contribution. We had created an environment where his work was more important to him. He felt bigger and better. He was doing something, rather than putting numbers up on a board. That was his sense of accomplishment. At the end of the day, meeting the production schedule. Now he was doing something that helped humanity. And he recognized it.
Yes.
Simple. You don't learn that in a lean book.
Yes.
They don't
Got
tell
it.
you that.
Yes.
Lonnie,
Yes, Doc.
since you mentioned that way back in 1980, when I was absolutely clueless about what lean is or what we are talking about. And I was in a huge aviation industry called Hindustan Aeronautics in Bangalore. I didn't know anything about intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation. I didn't know anything about it. But what we started doing was taking the machine shop people and the sheet metal people to the sub-assembly and tell them where exactly the part goes. And then the sub-assembly people to the final assembly in an aircraft and show them how they do it. Where did the part go? That made a tremendous difference. I just recollecting way back of what you were narrating. We didn't know anything about lean, or we didn't know anything about TPS, nothing. But there's some practice that we put into place, and that did motivate many of them. Right? And it is a unionized organization. Thank you for bringing it up, Lani.
Yes. Yes.
No,
Thank you.
thank you
Very
for the
nicely
question.
explained. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And the last one is for Dr. Mohan. In your book, you have mentioned it with your mentor that what is the fundamental difference between American and Japanese managers. So I want to ask Dr. Mohan, since he is acquainted with other cultures as well. So what is the most fundamental difference between Indian managers and the Japanese manager?
Look, I don't know anything about culture except agriculture in India. So can we talk about it some other time? So we are running out of time, and I will not duck your question at this forum. I will, but then get in touch with me. I can talk to you.
Yeah, sure.
Where is my Bhupesh gone? Bhupesh, Lani, Something extremely good what Bhupesh said. Bhupesh and me, we work together for Kaizen Institute, Asia Pacific, and both of us have got the same sensei, Masaki Mai. So he is also a product of Masaki Mai. What he was talking about, the senior managers, peers, and juniors, we used to have a joke during our time, Lani. We used to say spoon for the top management, fork for the peers, and knife for the subordinate. I hope that culture doesn't exist in many organizations. So are we ready to wind up? And Munawar and Alam need to stay back because we got to talk something else to Alam. And next time, what I'm going to do is, this is recorded. It is what we call in YouTube. The link will be with me. If you ask for it, I'll give you the link. Okay. If you don't ask for it, I won't give you the link. So it's recorded for my purpose, for my learning. Thank you very much, Lani. And next time, what I'm going to do differently is I'm going to again remind those people who are not there today to come on time, be in time. And let's see how it goes. I'm sure that things are going to grow, and many of you all know, so things are going to grow. So thank you very much, Lani, and those who want to peel off can peel off the rest of them.
One last word if I may, and first I want to remind you, if you want to stick around, I'll be around as long as Dr. M can keep the Zoom open. But next session, we're going to be talking about a really dynamite topic. This is earth-changing to a lot of consultants, and it's also sometimes very uncomfortable. Okay, but it's something that absolutely needs to be done. Okay, with that, if anybody has any questions, fire away. If not, we'll get into what Dr. M wanted to discuss. I am yours.
Yeah, if nobody wants to go, we can start the next session also. I got no problems.
Okay. I'll be leaving.
Pardon me?
Shreya, thank you for joining.
Thanks, Shreya.
You have a good week.
Thank you, sir.
Even I'll be
Thank
leaving.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank
See you,
you.
Nitin.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Dr.
Lonnie.
Mohan.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Nitin, I'll
Lonnie.
answer your question. You give me a call.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
Shreya, how is
thank
Winko's
you.
wife?
Thank you, Dr. M.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Bhupesh, nice of you to join.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mohan, and thank you, Lonnie. Thank you very much.
Where have you
Thank you
reached?
for your contribution, Bhupesh.
Where have you reached, Bhupesh?
I've just reached Express Highway, touched Express Highway.
Okay, long way to go.
Yeah, long way to go. Yes.
Is it Eastern Express Highway or Western Express Highway?
No, it's this thing, what do you call Pune Bombay Express Highway.
That is Eastern
Pune,
Express
Mumbai.
Highway. It'll take you another hour to reach wherever you are.
Yes, sure, definitely. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, Bhupesh. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
Drive safely.
Thank you. Yeah. Same. Thank you. Bye. Yeah.
So I'll take only 2 minutes or not even less than that.
Sure.
To tell Karthik, just to just give my experience when it comes to the this exactly the same scenario. We started in this organization when I'm currently working in 2000, and we started with people of 3-member team, 7-member team, 13-member, 30, 70, 130, like that. We grew, and I still very strongly know that until we are up to 70 people or 130 people, until such time, each and every one of the employees and the top management person, the company was founded by the person, knows by name every individual, and he speaks to them. And everyone feels that it's their organization. So when it grew further, but it couldn't, for some reason, couldn't manage it the same way. But then everything started going the other side of it. So wherein people more become, as like Lonnie said, more of transactional rather than transformational. Until such time, I know still people have felt that it's their organization, they are part of the organization. So if we create that kind of an environment or that kind of feeling in people's mind, I'm sure that it's very easy.
Well, I'm not sure it's easy. I'm just sure it's easier. There's always every solution brings new problems, and we'll talk about that. That's a natural outcome, and it's a burden that we as problem solvers face, that we come in to solve problems, and we always create problems as well. And that's not very understood nor accepted, you know. Managers want you to come in and give a nice clean solution where everything is wrapped up in a pretty package with, you know, wrapping in a bow, and it's never that way. There are always issues, even simple things like training and retraining and updating documentation, but sometimes it creates other problems as a function of system interaction, and like we talked about, encountering the environment. As soon as you have to encounter the environment, it's a problem, because very often it's not very well defined, and then as soon as you encounter it, you change it. And so the problem definition you started with is not the problem definition you have at the end. So you have to be nimble, you have to be on your feet, you have to be clever, and that's a real balancing act.
Thank you, Lonnie. Thank you, Dr. Mohan. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you for your contribution, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And if you have a question in between time, give me a call.
Sure.
Send me a Zoom link, and we'll get going. Or drop me an email, and I'll send you a Zoom link.
Absolutely. Have a good evening. Have a good day to everyone. Bye.
Yeah, have a good week, Raj. Thank you.